Hello everyone, welcome to Chaos Theory. Whether you're young or old, you've probably at least heard of Five Nights at Freddy's. If you haven't, which I seriously doubt, it was a horror game originally released back in 2014, where you have to survive the night in a haunted Chuck E. Cheese-esque restaurant. But what's kept this series alive has been the extremely intricate, albeit confusing, story, which is what I'll be explaining today, and it goes a little something like this. William Afton is a father of three and co-owner of a thriving restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner. At this job, he takes up several responsibilities, including helping people into a specially designed suit called a spring-lock suit. With the flick of a switch, these suits could transform into a fully working animatronic, but these said spring locks tend to fail when wet. William's youngest son, known best as the crying child, is constantly tormented by his older brother, William's oldest son, Michael. Michael would jump scare crying child with a foxy mask, a character from the Fredbear and Friends cast, which led him to developing a fear of the animatronics at his father's restaurant. Michael knew this fact, and so at crying child's birthday, he decides to play a prank. He puts crying child in the mouth of Fredbear, but due to his namesake, crying, the aforementioned spring locks are loosened, causing them to collapse, crushing his skull. This incident went down as the Bite of 83 and caused Fredbear's to close down. William is very upset and distraught, and one night, in a burst of anger, he kills his business partner Henry's daughter, Charlotte, when she gets locked out of one of the restaurants. But fortunately, Charlotte's favorite animatronic, the marionette, sees her get locked out and tries to get her back inside, but unfortunately, it was too late. When it makes it to Charlotte, she's already dead, and since it's raining, its electronics are malfunctioning, causing it to hardly be able to move. So it crawls up to Charlotte and lays down next to her. But that small action from the marionette may in fact be the most important action in the games. Through something called Remnant, Charlotte's soul is able to possess the marionette and come back from the dead in this automaton. Fast forward to 1985, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is doing better than Fredbear's ever had before. Henry had been building this restaurant's reputation since 1983, just before the bite, and it sickened William. He had to do something to tear that reputation down. And so William gets hired onto the staff as a daytime security guard so he can get a better sense of the building. While he's searching the building, he finds something in the back, a spring-lock suit. Seeing that old suit gave him quite the idea. William, now donning the yellow rabbit suit, starts luring children into an employees-only room, 5 in all. And when they're there, he takes care of them. William leaves their bodies lying out in the employees-only room, hoping that someone will see them. And someone does. Sort of. Charlotte, in the form of the marionette, finds them. Since the marionette gave out prizes at the prize corner, she tries to give gifts to give life. But when that doesn't work, she tries one last thing. Charlotte puts their bodies into the animatronic suits, and somehow, it works. The remnant binds their souls to the animatronics, allowing them to move freely. Soon the news takes hold of this story. 5 kids go missing, bodies never found. The eerie rumors start driving people away, and the restaurant gets shut down due to health code violations. 2 years after William had caused all those deaths at that original Freddy's, and Henry is trying to start up another one.
The all-new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has everything. An arcade, the best pizza in the world, and state-of-the-art animatronics. Now with a more toy-like appearance. But that's not all. They also have a facial recognition system that's tied to a built-in criminal database, so no more pesky missing kids.
Since William is a bit of a one-trick pony, he gets hired onto the staff as a daytime security guard again. He uses a pseudonym again, but he knows it won't work for long, so he messes with the facial recognition system on these toy animatronics to hopefully buy him some time. Eventually, these animatronics figure out that the daytime security guard is a criminal, and one fateful day, they strike. One of them bites him directly in the frontal lobe, nearly killing him. But they got the wrong guy. The man they bit was Jeremy Fitzgerald. He was a nighttime security guard, but he was just switched to the day shift that day. This bite of 87 causes Henry to shut the location down and announce he'll be downsizing the location and returning to the old design for Freddy and the gang. This location doesn't get much business due to previous incidents and closes down fairly quickly, although William feels he still hasn't gotten back at Henry quite enough. Late 1993, William is told by a current night guard named Mike Schmidt that the animatronics are haunted, and he decides to learn more. These animatronics follow a mysterious Shadow Freddy to a corner of the pizzeria, and William dismantles them one by one. He creates these new animatronics with tube-like endoskeletons that can contort to fit their special shells. He melts down the scrapped parts and injects the molten substance created into the animatronics. Immediately they start thrashing around, almost like multiple fractions of spirits are all fighting for control. William gives them chest compartments so that they can capture children at birthday parties and experiment with this new remnant stuff he discovered. He dubs them the Fun Time animatronics, as any kid who comes near them will certainly have a real fun time. His favorite of the bunch was Circus Baby, a large clown-like animatronic with red pigtails. It was designed for his daughter, Elizabeth, who definitely loved it just as much as he did. William decided to open a new restaurant with these killing machines called Circus Baby's Pizza World. Its lifespan would be unfortunately cut short, as Elizabeth ended up getting too close and got scooped. William immediately shut the place down after only a day, and blamed it on gas leaks. William returns to the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to collect the remaining parts, but somehow, the spirits are able to manifest physical forms. They chase him into the back room, where he keeps the suit he originally used to kill them long ago. William, with nowhere left to run, retreated into the Yellow Rabbit's Springlock suit. He has a brief moment of triumph before disaster strikes. The rain seeps through the leaky roof and lands on the Springlocks, causing them to fail, piercing his skin with thousands of pieces of sharp metal. This is, or at least it should be, the end of William Afton. Henry eventually finds William in the room, his bloody corpse forever trapped inside that accursed yellow bunny suit. Henry knew he would be liable if anyone found out, so he sealed off the room so that no one could find out. Michael Afton is sitting back one day reading his favorite magazine, Screws, Bolts, and Hairpins, when he sees a job posting for Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals. Since he's low on cash and his father usually pays the bills, he decides to take the job. It was conveniently located under his house, so he doesn't have to go far to get to work. Once he does, he finds an elevator. Inside is some sort of hand unit that has his name on it. It tells him to type his name in, but it autocorrects it to Eggs Benedict. As Michael works this job, he ends up being guided by the voice of the Circus Baby animatronic. Throughout the various nights, he has to reset the power, do maintenance on the animatronics, nearly get spring-locked, and on his last night, he ends up in a mysterious scooping room. The purpose of this room is apparently to scoop the Fun Times tube-like endos out of their hard shells. While Circus Baby is trauma dumping, he notices a new animatronic watching him through the window. Just as he sees this, the scooper in the blink of an eye turns his insides into outsides. This new animatronic named Ennard then uses his body as a skin suit to blend in with humans. But Ennard isn't new at all. It's the amalgamation of all of the Funtime animatronics' endoskeletons, and the spirits of the 5 missing children. Michael should be dead, but somehow he's still alive, but not in control. Over the next few weeks, his body starts to decay, Ennard's disguise getting less effective by the day. After Michael's body is too rotten to make a good disguise, Ennard leaves his body. but the scooper injected his body with remnant, meaning that Michael's spirit is still alive. Michael sets out on a mission to find his father and put an end to his reign of terror. William is trapped inside this hidden room for 30 whole years, until one day, some kids buy the building and turn it into some kind of a horror attraction, making fun of the previous incidents. They find the original floor plans for the building and notice that there's a room that seems to be blocked off. They considered leaving it blocked off to avoid paying taxes, but they ultimately decided to open up the room and see what's inside. When they do eventually decide to break down the wall and see what's inside, they are very glad that they did. Inside was an authentic Fazbear animatronic. Sure, it was decayed and moldy and smelled like, well, death, but that just added to the ambiance. William, now known as Springtrap, had a strange obsession with the sound devices. These devices, known as RASCs, which stands for Remote Activated Simulated Child, were used to mimic the sounds of children laughing to surprise people and remind them of the old missing kids rumors. This attraction is short-lived, though, because it unfortunately burns to the ground due to faulty wiring. Springtrap's remnant melts out amidst this fire, but he is still possessed. This, though, isn't remnant, it's agony. The pure emotional energy produced from the pain of the Springlock failure is enough to keep him going, enough for him to try and get back at Henry one last time. Michael sees an ad about owning a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza franchise while watching his favorite TV show, The Immortal and the Restless, so he decides to go ahead and become a franchisee because he is still low on cash. Once he does, they slap $100 in his hand and tell him to make it work. Michael ends up spending all the money on literal trash with faces. Since he is now completely broke, he opens the pizzeria up to the public and gets started doing boring tasks like printing flyers and remotely unclogging toilets. But after he finishes tasks, there's apparently some third part of the job that was in some paragraph 4 of the contract he didn't read thoroughly. Michael apparently has to salvage some animatronics from the alleyway to make a profit. Michael salvages 4 animatronics over the next few days, and yet doesn't ever realize exactly what, or more precisely who, they are. William, in the form of Springtrap, Elizabeth, in Circus Baby, the missing children in the form of what was Ennard once, and Charlotte, in the form of the puppet, trapped inside of a black bear animatronic named Lefty. Everyone is here. During a shift after he salvaged all 4 of these animatronics, Henry starts talking. He says that all of these animatronics were lured here so that they could be put to rest. For most of them, there will be peace, and maybe even more waiting for them after the smoke clears.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
Charlotte, Elizabeth, Gabriel, Jeremy, Fritz, Susie. These children's spirits are all able to move on, but one, Cassidy, is quite a vengeful spirit. Now that William is dead, it's Cassidy's turn to hunt him down. Cassidy shows William all the creatures he created and makes him feel what he made everyone else feel. Cassidy even goes so far as to call herself the one you shouldn't have killed. She will keep torturing William for all eternity to make him pay for what he's done, completely ignoring the advice that she should rest her soul. And this, my friends, is the original story of Five Nights at Freddy's. A story of tragedy, revenge, and exotic butters. That they may or may not have decanonized by saying that the games are actually games in the lore. I'll explain that more in depth in the next episode, so make sure to come back for that. But until then, I'll see you next time on Chaos Theory.